Thank you, Monty. And thank you, everybody, for joining and taking a look at and hearing out how Contigo perceives this ransomware threat that is kind of on the shores of so many businesses and on the minds of very important people within each of our clients' infrastructure. And just want to take a brief moment, in this webinar to talk about, the ever-evolving threat of ransomware and what we're seeing on the front lines. And also, after we describe it and the evolution of ransomware as we're seeing it and fighting against it day in and day out, what that threat looks like. And also take a look at what Contigo does, to help our clients remain safe in today's ransomware environment, really. So let's take a look at these slides real quick and I'll go through them. And hopefully I can paint a really good picture based on the knowledge that we have of this ransomware threat and what we see other industry and analysts talking about, and bring some valuable insights and some good practical steps on what you can do to defend yourself against ransomware. But first, just a little bit about us. I know we have some clients and we have some people who don't use Contigo. We are Contigo Technology. We are an Austin-based IT support firm. And we've been around for 10 years. And those two gentlemen that are flanking me on the shoulders are very important people here. The tall gentleman is Andrew Williams, our Director of Service Delivery, and then Mark Lucio, who is over our finance and operations. We're independently owned and operated, very much focused on Central Texas. We love to share the accolades that we received from Expertise, where we were chosen best of breed IT support service for Central Texas over 37 other managed service providers. And we've had some financial success in tracking and being on the Inc. 5000 list for 3 years in a row now. When it comes to our cybersecurity credentials, it's interesting, this security footprint that we've tacked on to our business and what gives us the right to really talk about ransomware and to help give guidance to clients on how to prevent it. Well, a big piece of our practice is compliancy, and we have compliancy practitioners on our staff, and they're really helping clients who are healthcare clients, as well as any clients that sell upstream into the Department of Defense. Both of those two verticals really have regulatory requirements that are bred and breathing throughout their IT resources. And for us to give those people guidance, we have to specialize and train on certain regulatory compliances, which will be a segment of today's discussion. So we have a couple of members who have become practitioners of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and that's commonly referred to as Nist. It's well-known regulatory requirement for people who sell into the state government, federal government. They oftentimes have to align with Nist. And then a bigger regulatory requirement, which we're an RPO organization, is the new Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. And of course, we do a lot of HIPAA knowledge that we share with our clients, and we do a number of HIPAA risk audits for our clients. And this is very important because this is where we draw our knowledge and draft our recommendations to our clients who have to contend with not just ransomware, but a whole host of other security type concerns. And so, we're a healthy IT support organization. We have a tendency to lean on compliancy initiatives and where we draft our cybersecurity posture from. So let's get started with the topic of ransomware. And where does ransomware come from? And there is an organization out there called CrowdStrike, and they are well known in the world of cybersecurity, and they produce a report each and every year, and it's leveraged by a number of businesses. And in that report, it talks about the genesis and the groups of that really initiate ransomware. And in CrowdStrike, what they often cite is, what's the point of a ransomware attack? You know, there's really two components to it. How are they going to get into your infrastructure? And then what do they want once they get there? And so, you know, there's really two doors that ransomware is trying to get in. It's through the endpoints and cloud applications, which are, you know, becoming more and more of a concern. And so by endpoints, I mean everything from, let's say you have a firewall that's not configured properly and it has a port open that shouldn't be open. Let's say you use a cloud application, you know, to manage all of your clients in some degree. Let's say you have an ERP where you have multiple tenants that you manage your client base from. They want to try to expose weaknesses in the way those environments are set up and try to insert themselves and get a foothold through those two types of through those endpoints and cloud applications. But the main one is really trying to get in utilizing the identity of maybe one of your employees. And this, you know, a derivative of this is really trying to get access to somebody's email where they can get into the ins and outs of the communications that those employees have with your vendors or internal other internal employees, and really leverage that information and get into the environment to where they can, you know, do a number of different malicious activities, but more so than anything, you know, deploy ransomware through some attachments that they have sent via email. And of course, at the end of the day, the real prize is really locking down and encrypting the data. But it's much more than just getting access to the data these days. They're doing a lot of really nefarious items, like going out and trying to resell that data on the dark web. And we'll get into that just a little bit. But when you think about the groups out there that are putting the time and effort into performing ransomware attacks, it's really, you know, the way CrowdStrike says it is that they track about 170 different organizations that are loosely defined at times, and other times they are kind of state sponsored, right? So these 170 groups, they kind of act in different capacities, right? So you can have of these groups, they, you know, some of them are very targeted, right? And so right now, let's use the Ukraine war as an example, right? So one of those 170 groups could be the government resources of Russia, who are trying to attack the systems of Ukraine. They know where to go. They know what they're looking for. They know their target is Ukraine, and so they'll try to hack into the most important systems that Ukraine has and trying to lock down their systems. And then there's, you know, quite honestly, another example of this Russia-Ukrainian war is there's hacktivist groups which maybe want to try to support Ukraine, and they're targeting Russia, and so they'll go out and try to you know, take the knees out of the Russian IT systems, right? And we've seen stories like this over the years. You know, the Israelis hacked into the Iranians' nuclear capabilities and deployed a ransomware bug years back, which is very interesting. Or the Colonial Pipeline that happened last year, where they hacked in, knowing what they were looking for, and they hacked into the Colonial Pipeline and inserted ransomware into that. But you know, those 170 organizations, you know, the vast majority of them, they are targeting certain industries. They know where they're going after, or the hacktivists know where they're going after. But that really comprises about 30% of what's actually going on. You know, those first two, we like to call, those are big game hunting type organizations, but 70% of ransomware is really down here at this e-crime level, where, you know, it's really just a wide variety of emails that are going out. They're trying to see who clicks on stuff. And once their emails gets sent, and you know, an unsuspecting employee at some small company clicks on a Outlook, in Outlook, they click on an email and they click on a Word document, and that malicious code of ransomware is deployed. You know, that sends alarms back to one of these malicious organizations that say, hey, they got a foothold into the company, and now, you know, they start to engage, right? So it's really an indiscriminate way of getting the ransomware out, but it happens the majority of that pie chart where, you know, 30% is big game hunting, like I said, on the targeted or hacktivist. That other 70% is really indiscriminate. They're trying to see who clicks on something, and when it is clicked on, you know, alarms are sent back to the groups, and the groups, these malicious groups, then start engaging in activity. And, you know, Contigo as an IT company, sometimes we'll get called. It's happened multiple times where we get called where somebody has gotten attacked by ransomware. They're not a client of ours, and they're asking if we can come in and help. And by the time we come in and help, you know, we see everything that's happened. Everything is encrypted. But I can tell you, on one occasion, we came in and we caught these one of these groups in the act, where we could actually see them on a server trying to type and trying to move laterally within the organization, and we were able to close it down and stop it there. But that's a very random event where we're able to actually, at the point when they're trying to push the encryption across the organization, able to stop them in the act. But that is how it happens, right? So, you know, there's always, at the end of the day, a person who is contacted by the malicious code, and then they try to engage the IT infrastructure of a business and really try to spread the ransomware laterally. So it's interesting, right? Because these organizations, they go after different verticals. They treat different verticals, and you know, there's the industrial and engineering vertical, so manufacturing. They go after them, you know, quite a bit. Engineering companies, they go after them quite a bit. And really, the common denominator on the companies that get attacked the most is they're the ones that hold on to a tremendous amount of data. And if a company doesn't have a whole bunch of data, you know, they don't have as much risk as the ones who, as the big engineering firm that's been around for 20 years, and they have all of their plans and all of these intricate AutoCAD files with all of these plans, or the law firm, or the banking infrastructure, or the retail company, which you know, is becoming more and more a target for ransomware. It's probably exponentially growing as a target audience faster than any other vertical, which is retail, like I said. So how it's interesting to watch the flow of ransomware and how it all happens, right? I mean, there's not one way that all of this activity is happening. It's a whole dark business, right? And so if you look at from the flow of how ransomware is advancing, and what's the genesis of it, to how do the bad guys make money? You know, I just put a couple of examples here. So the service itself, right? I mean, so there's people out there who will sell the bad guys information on how to access a network, for example. Maybe one component of all those groups I were telling you about, one organization might do nothing else but try to see how they can hack into an organization, and then stop there and sell that information off to another organization. There's places you can go on the dark web where they sell nothing but phishing kits, how to build emails and instructions on how to get emails sent over to a wide variety of potential clients or of businesses. And then there's they're not creating new ransomware every time something happens, right? I mean, there's all types of these malicious groups that are selling different ransomware flavors. And so you can buy all this stuff, and you buy it, and you kind of, you take it generally on how it's built, and then you can customize it. And then from once there, they start sending it out through spam email distribution. And like I said, 70% of these small business, 70% of ransomware is really just sent out through spam email distribution with these with these attachments that carry the ransomware. And so once the ransomware gets deployed, there's a variety of ways in which they try to make money off of it, right? So we all are kind of knowledgeable about how ransomware payments and extortion happen, right? So you get encrypted, you try to access your files, you get a pop-up that tells you got to send Bitcoin payments to this site, and it's gotten very, very sophisticated to the point where, some of these sites where you pay Bitcoin money has a help desk icon that you can engage the bad guys with so that they can help facilitate the payments. And it's it's a big, big business, and it's growing, and it's only getting more malicious, quite honestly, as ransomware evolves, and there's multiple ways that the bad guys are trying to capitalize on making money. So here's a couple of points I pulled from Forbes recently. 94% of ransomware is delivered through phishing messages. So this is no surprise to us, right? I mean, this is the stuff, all that junk, all that spam that gets delivered through email. That's the main source of how ransomware is getting delivered. And it's always, most likely, it's sitting there in those emails in some type of file attachment. And then there's a 64% increase in the overall of email threat volume. That means across the board, you're just seeing more efforts of this spam going out to your business's email platform and trying to get through and just looking for somebody who lets their guard down and clicks on one of these emails. So what we used to think was ransomware, and it's just its normal form was, they would encrypt the data, and you would have to pay X amount of dollars to get the key back so that all the data would be unencrypted. But that's not where they're stopping now, right? So what they're doing now is they'll extract the data first. So they may have been on the network for 6 months, searching, combing through all the data, pulling the data out of the network, and then once they have it, then they'll encrypt everything. And then they'll ask you to pay for the encryption key. But then they come back and they say, look, if you don't want us to drip this data, sell this data, publish it on the dark web, you've also got to pay us for that as well. So now the bad guys are getting paid on two fronts, the data that they can potentially leak, as well as the encryption key. And it was interesting, the manufacturing sector, as I mentioned, it's a major target for ransomware, 25% increase. But more so than anything else, the retailers are where the ransom attacks are going up by 10x. And the reason being, according to Forbes, is that's where they're getting a lot of payment info, a lot of personal info on the retailer's clients and credit card numbers. All of that stuff they make a tremendous amount of money off of when they sell it on the dark web. So the cost of ransomware is increasing. Think about it. You've got when you get stung by ransomware, what they are doing is they're making you pay for the encryption key, and they're making you pay for their data. Your business is down on average for 6 days. So that's 6 days of revenue that, if you're a services organization and you make, let's say, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 a day times 6, that's a tremendous amount of money to lose for that period of time. Now, here's what's also interesting. Only 66% of paid ransoms recover their data. Now, this is another thing that we see, right? I mean, the easy way out in every discussion about how to handle a ransomware incident is let's pay the ransom, but it's never 100% that you're going to get the either your data back or the key back. 35% of paid ransoms didn't receive that encryption key. So it's always a gamble whether or not you're going to get back what you expect to get back once you pay the ransom. 70% of those hit with ransomware were hit with another one within a year. So not only are you getting hit in the face once with ransomware and you have to pay multiple times, you're not sure if you're going to get the key back, the chances are high that you're going to get hit again. So all of this stuff, I know it's very concerning, and it's easy to talk about all the bad things and scare people into, into taking corrective action. But, as an MSP, a managed service provider, where we might manage 90 businesses, you see all of these folks are very concerned about this, and they want to know what they can do to make sure this does not happen to them, because we all see this stuff in the news. Now, I wanted to insert this because I had a webinar recently, and we did it with a cyber insurance broker. And I found it very fascinating. And, we've had so many of our clients come to us in the past 2 years asking whether or not they should get cyber insurance. And I absolutely feel like you should get cyber insurance. It is, maybe 5 years ago, it would have been like, oh, that's interesting and we can get it and it's not that expensive. But today we all know that, some things could happen and it could really affect our business and our revenue flow. And what cyber insurance covers is it covers if the ransom is paid, they're gonna reimburse you for that ransom. Most likely, the cyber insurance company is going to pay the ransom. They're going to pay for legal advice. They're going to pay for any kind of reputational harm. It's going to cover, under the best circumstances, it's going to cover lost revenue. So it is very, very comforting to know that you have cyber insurance. And I've seen many of these plans, and I would encourage you to take a look at it and sign up for cyber insurance, because it's certainly a safe thing to have if something like this was to happen to you. Now, with that being said, it is absolutely amazing, the cyber insurance coverages on how quickly they're catching up with the real threat that is affecting all of their clients. 5 years ago, Contigo would never see a client send over a questionnaire from one of his clients saying, hey, we're about to sign up for cyber insurance. They're asking us a couple of questions. Can you tell us if we're doing this or not? That would never happen 5 years ago. But in today's age, where there are so many cyber insurance claims, the cyber insurance companies, before they sign you up for cyber insurance, they want to know if your house is in order. They want to know things that are representative of your overall IT security posture. And I just have a couple of slides here that I took from a recent questionnaire that we got. Does the applicant publish or distribute written policies and procedures regarding computer and information security to its employees? Does the applicant conduct computer and information security training? Is everything encrypted? So I had multiple questionnaires like this come, and I just wanted to share with you, yes, cyber insurance is important, sign up for it. But they are going to ask to what level your IT posture stands before they write that coverage. It's very similar, kind of in a pragmatic analogy of all the storms that kind of hit New Orleans, and to have storm coverage, if you wanted to continue to have it, those policies are going to be expensive. And so that's kind of where the cyber insurance policies are now. They're really asking you to make sure your house is buttoned up before they write the policy. And if they are going to actually step in and provide you some kind of insurance coverage, they're going to want to see at the time of the incident that you were living up to those cyber insurance questions that you answered. So how do you defend against ransomware? Well, this is kind of where I talk about how we do it, right? So it's, 10 years ago when we started, we were a pretty traditional IT support firm, which is we were making sure we were supporting all the employees, on their days in and days out questions. We were making sure we were keeping an eye on the infrastructure, making sure the infrastructure was healthy. And, that was really IT support, 10 years ago. But as ransomware and wire transfers and cybersecurity is become more pronounced, you know, a big piece of our business is how do we protect our clientele? And this is how we do it. And I wanted to share it with you. And hopefully it will give you kind of a good roadmap for a kind of a pragmatic approach for defending against ransomware and other malicious activity. So first of all, what you find is that the business owners, the CEOs, the C-level members of the business, they have concerns and they want to know that everything is buttoned up. And what's driving their behavior? Well, they certainly see everything in the news, just like you and I do, right? I mean, they see all the ransomware attacks. They have people who, they have colleagues that are in the business that have war stories. They've seen it all and they're super concerned. Some of them have regulatory requirements. So some of them are already well aware that they need to have their house in order, whether they got to be Nist compliant or HIPAA compliant or ISO or SOC 2 compliant. You know, they've already kind of been going in that direction. And as you can see, there's other pressures that are happening that require that house to get in order. As I use it as an example in that cyber insurance policy questionnaire, you may not have a compliancy that you need to fall in line with, but you may want cyber insurance and you're getting asked all these random questions. And I'll tell you what, those questions are coming from regulatory obligations. They're all derivatives of regulations is what those questions are. So the cyber insurance companies are asking if your house is in order, and those questions are coming from these compliance regulations. You see the ransomware and wire transfer requests. And finally, what's the business owners are where they're feeling the pressure is they're doing deals with larger clients. And those are really lucrative business relationships they have. And those larger clients are coming down and saying, hey, if you want to sell us your goods and you want to engage with us, you have to tell us what your overall IT security posture is. And all of this is pushing these C-level contacts to wanting to have confidence that their IT house is in order. But how do you communicate and give them that warm, fuzzy feeling that they're doing the right things? Well, this is how we used to do it, right? This is how we used to, we buy products, Contigo would, and we put our products in all of these different places. And you know, this was our first kind of foray in how do you deal with securing the infrastructure. And you know, what I find is most companies, they might have an IT staff, and that IT staff is expected to, you know, manage that whole infrastructure. But that IT staff, they need tools, right? They need today's advanced tools to fight these fires. And so just as an example of what Contigo does on our product side, is, you know, we have our clients through, you know, make sure they are encouraged to use two-factor authentication. We put spam filters up in front of Gmail and Office 365. We get a product that alerts on account takeovers. So, you know, if John Doe, his email is hacked, we can start seeing alerts that some malicious activity is taking place. We do audits on the ports that are the firewall ports. We provide firmware updates across all of the network equipment. We put products that are on the servers that allow us to know when users are being added and when users are being taken off. Doing the little things like operating system patching. The list goes on and on. And there's no silver bullet, right? It's just a series of best practices and products that we put on the infrastructure to make sure that there's no way in, right? I mean, in the simplest form, when you're dealing with protecting your house from ransomware and all the other malicious activity, I always use this analogy, which I heard one of the local sheriffs here in Central Texas say. He's like, look, the car thieves, they're going door to door, and they're not breaking glass. All they're doing is checking to see if the door is unlocked. And if it's unlocked, they're going to steal something from the car. If it's locked, they just keep on moving on. And I know that's oversimplifying things, but in reality, if you're managing the infrastructure properly, if you're using kind of best of breed products, and you're putting them in different pieces of the infrastructure, you can really stay out of harm's way. But the products weren't the only way, and it wasn't the only way to secure the infrastructure. And so as we evolved and we started looking at, okay, we need a higher power to lead the way in securing a client's infrastructure, what we started looking at was trying to really become familiar. This is several years back, become familiar with, well, who sets the path for what a business should do, to maintain an overall healthy IT secure posture. And as you can see in this very busy slide, these are all regulatory, these are all regulations, and some of them are used by some verticals and others by others. But the one that you see the most is Nist. And Nist is, it was created by the federal government. It's got a couple different flavors of regulations. And the one that is out there that we encourage all of our clients and anybody who really wants to have a nice, healthy IT security posture is at a minimum follow the Nist cybersecurity framework. And it really starts bringing together an overall strategy that I think really communicates back to the C-level contacts as to what it is that you're doing at the IT level to give them confidence that you're following the best practices that keeps that company safe and their IT resources safe. So let me just give you a little taste of well, I took you to the website just so you could see that the National Institute of Standards and Technology, it was developed by the U.S. Department of Commerce. And so it's very, very popular out there. It is a beacon in the night to follow to make sure that your IT infrastructure stays safe. Very pragmatic approach. And just to give you a little taste of it. So what is it doing? Well, it's about 5 different categories that you are encouraged to go investigate and make sure that your company are doing the right things. And those main functions are broken down into probably 20 different categories. And you go through this, and it allows you to go through the process of making sure that you're doing everything you possibly can to keep your house in order. Now, look, it's really, nobody likes to do regulations. I 100% get it. If your company isn't getting audited, I get it. It's the last thing you want to hear about is compliancy and regulations. But it's a day that's a little bit different. We're being drawn into this. And one of the things you can do is, if you have a healthy IT infrastructure and you're doing the right things and you have the ability to go through this, what you do is establishes a baseline of what you're doing well, and then also gives you an idea of what your gaps are. So you can always, whether you're talking to the cyber insurance questionnaire, whether you're talking to a large vendor you want to do business with, whether whatever it is who's asking you what your overall IT posture is, I encourage you to follow something like the Nist cybersecurity framework so that you have a baseline and you are offensive in your IT posture. And so what a company like Contigo does is we use a cloud-based application that we go through, and we use some of our compliancy experts, and we'll go through all those 20 plus categories, and we establish this baseline. It takes about a week or 2 for us to do it, and we tell you what you're doing right and where you have gaps, and from there you can work forward. And I tell you what, I mean, the C-level contacts, they really understand this, and they get themselves in a much more peaceful mindset when they know that they're doing best practices through the lens of the Nist cybersecurity framework. I've seen it firsthand, and it gets a lot of really, really good feedback. What a company like Contigo does is we come in not only doing that Nist cybersecurity risk assessment, but as a company that specializes in using products and we integrate all these products, we purchase products specifically to address many of those Nist cybersecurity framework requirements. So as you can see here, I have those 5 different primary categories, and through the lens of a traditional network, which is what this represents, we use and buy products and deploy them so that we can check boxes directly back to that Nist cybersecurity framework. And it's been very, very successful for our clients, their IT security posture, as well as the peace of mind for C-level executives. So the point is ransomware is a dirty, concerning, malicious activity produced by, one of 170 different organizations looked at by CrowdStrike. And, you always just got to be offensive in your overall IT posture. And the best way to do that is align with the National Institute of Technology and Standards. It's a combination of products and processes. Obviously use an IT company that has a cybersecurity focus. And there's certain responsibilities that fall on the clients in all of this as well, which is, keep your hardware up to date, have the correct licensing for all your operating systems you use. And stay on top of that stuff. You don't have to be the most technically advanced company in whatever vertical you are, but you don't want to be sitting on old, outdated hardware that doesn't get updates from the manufacturer. So just a real quick run through on kind of what we see firsthand over here at Contigo, managing the amount of clients that we do and the variety of IT infrastructures that they have, putting products and processes in place to keep them safe. We wanted to share some of those best practices, and I hope you found this helpful. Just another perspective on what somebody is doing to help keep everything safe. If you have any questions and you would like to contact me directly, you can send an email to fuller@contigotx.com. Or if you have any sales-related questions, sales@contigotx.com. I'm Bryan Fuller, CEO of Contigo Technology. Thank you for joining us today.